Welcome to the Type 1 Lifting Podcast. Now enjoy the show. All right, guys, I want to tell you a little bit about Type 1 Lifting. So Type 1 Lifting is a clothing brand that proceeds of the shirts, the hats, and everything else go to the Children's Diabetes Foundation. This whole t-shirt company started from me taking care of a 5-year-old girl from the emergency department at the Children's Hospital I worked at in Atlanta for a while back. I thought I needed to do a little bit more than kind of just talk about my story. So this is how I started the clothing line, because I wanted to show people that even though diabetics have this really bad disease, we can still do amazing things in our life, and diabetes won't stop us reaching our goals. So go check out type1lifting.com. And, if you have any questions, you can always reach me out on Instagram. It's Type 1 Lifting, and hope you guys enjoy the show. Hey guys, we have a new sponsor for the Type 1 Lifting podcast. The company's called Liberté Lifestyle. So Liberté is a French word meaning freedom, and the company was founded on the desire to have freedom to choose what we want to do with our lives. I actually had the owner, Nicole, on my podcast on episode 28, so if you want to go back and listen to her, she talks about how she started the company and what she wants to do in the future with the company, which is pretty cool. So they actually have knee sleeves, wrist wraps, shirts, shorts. Love the knee sleeves. I have the ice cream knee sleeves, and I love them so much. The neoprene's still good. The seams haven't split compared to other knee sleeves that I have had in the past, and I'm planning to keep these for a very, very long time. So Nicole actually gave me a promo code for you guys too. So it's all capital letters, TYPE, and the number 1. So it's Type 1. So go to libertelifestyle.com, check out what they have in the store, use the promo code Type 1, and save some coin. Now let's go to the episode. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Type 1 Lifting Podcast. I have Misfit athlete / CrossFit athlete, Paige Semenza. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Not bad. So we do have kind of a mutual friend in common. Okay. So Kelly Wild is actually a fellow diabetic of mine. I've had her on the podcast twice, and you played college hockey with her as well.
Yeah. Small world, right?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. So since you kind of know who Kelly is and stuff like that, so what was your, kind of idea with diabetes, and then seeing Kelly go through it, and what do you know about diabetes pretty much?
So, when you're a kid growing up and you are very naive to nutrition and food and diet and all that, you kind of grow up and you hear the stereotype of a diabetic being this, pretty overweight person, doesn't do much working out, is drinking diet soda and, limiting sugar intake and all that kind of stuff. In which, some of it may be true, but then you have someone like Kelly Wild, who is so far from a stereotype, I guess you want to say. And honestly, I didn't know much about it. I didn't even know much as a freshman until kind of getting to know some of your teammates. And I just remember her having to get up at random hours of the night and having to check her blood level, her sugar levels, and having to eat something. And a lot of times she, get annoyed about it because, it throws off your routine and things like that. But Kelly Wild was always one of the hardest workers on the team and one of the grittiest players on our team. And kind of a role model for me when I was young. I was a year behind her being a freshman, and I just always aspired to work that hard. And I think because of that, we always had this mutual respect in college, and then, kind of coming out of college, and our paths crossed again with CrossFit, and we ended up being on the same team. Her and her boyfriend at the time recruited me to move to Minnesota and live with her for a year and her family. Yeah. So that was really awesome. And again, she's still, checking her levels and eating when she needs to, and doing what she has to do with her body to make sure that she's at an optimal level to perform, but also to live, like it is interesting to see, kind of what you have to go through with that. And it makes you appreciate how much more, just how hard they work and the level of competition that she's gotten to, and the level of success she's had, and to see her transition again into another sport is pretty awesome.
Yeah. And she's number one in her weight class right now for Olympic weightlifting, which is insane.
Yeah, I know. I think for her, and I know she dealt with a lot of injuries at the time too, when we were in CrossFit. But I think it was a great transition for her to go to just weightlifting.
Yeah.
And it's really awesome to see her kind of using her story and her background and her life experiences, and see her be able to share that through social media, and, just be inspiring in that way.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. I know those like middle of the night, you got to eat something. Like there's been times that like I make a peanut butter sandwich and just lie in bed and just try to like pretend I'm still sleepy, but yet I'm trying to eat the
right.
sandwich just get the sugars up.
Yeah. And especially, when you're a college kid too, like Kelly was in a ton of, heavy, hard classes, with whatever major she was in. So like, you're studying, you're trying to play a Division I sport, you're trying to manage your time, and yet you still have to get up at 3 a.m. and try to get something in because you need to.
Yeah, exactly.
So
very cool.
Yeah.
So don't be mad at me. I am a Michigan fan.
That's fine. You can be a Michigan fan. Just be an Ohio State women's ice hockey team fan.
Okay. I'll take that into consideration. Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
I guess I can do that. I mean, I don't know if my Michigan card would be revoked if I ever said that. So,
well, they don't have a girls team, so I feel like that's fair.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
Cool. All right.
What made you like Michigan?
Funny story. So I'm originally from Massachusetts, and you can kind of tell by the accent a little bit. I was getting a haircut at a barbershop, and like I rode my bike there. It was like this like local town barbershop. And so I'm getting my haircut, and obviously I see a college football game in the background. And I was like really into football at the time. And so I kept on like looking around. So the barber turned the chair over. So it was Michigan versus Ohio State. And that was when Desmond Howard did like the Heisman pose in the end zone. And so So once I saw that, like in Massachusetts, we have like BC, but we have BU for a little while too, but they weren't the greatest, but like they're really good. We're really good at hockey, and we're mainly a professional sports team. And so I didn't have a college team to, latch onto. And so lo and behold, Michigan came around, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'll take it.
That's fair. All right. That's fair.
So, I mean, and then like,
year? I honestly don't follow football. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I believe they did. So,
all right.
Yeah, but anyway, so before you talk about like playing hockey and stuff like that, what was your upbringing growing up?
I was your like true diehard tomboy of a kid. I played all different types of sports. My parents let me have the freedom to kind of choose what I wanted to do, and never really pushed me towards anything. And it kind of just naturally happened. But I was always out in the backyard with my cousins, playing a sport, playing something. We were never really inside doing anything. So I've always been super active since I was a kid. And then I started focusing more on ice hockey in middle school. Mm-hmm. And then from there, getting into high school, the talks of a prep school come around and things like that. And living in northeastern Pennsylvania, there's not a whole lot around us. I would say within like a 5-hour drive, that's where you found everything, the hockey and all that. So I went to a tournament in Canada where a coach recruited me for a school called the North American Hockey Academy. And it was a all-girls school in Vermont. We essentially lived in an old ski lodge, and we went to school out in the back in like cubicles in little office spaces. So the school at the time, I went full time, but most girls would transition from their school into this school for about 5 months of the year and then transition back to their regular school back home. But I went there full time for my 3 years. So I was just at North American Hockey Academy. Yeah. And then that got me seen by a lot of coaches, and I had a couple schools in mind, but Ohio State just really kind of stuck. And then I decided to commit there and never look back.
Yeah. So you said like Ohio State really like stuck out to you. Like what was the ooh, ah factor for like Ohio? I've been there, so I kind of seen like what it's all about. It's huge. So but like what was the ooh, ah factor for you?
The city is, or the campus is pretty much a city in itself. Like it's a city within a city. Right. But when you go for your official visit, they take you to a football game. They take you to see the hockey team and to visit everybody, to see, what kind of gear you're going to get, all the, spectacle things. But I just really loved that I got along with the coach well. I felt like I connected with the players, and it was a good school. Like you can find almost any degree there and, be happy about it. And once I got there and, get into the routine of, playing a sport in college and time management and classes and getting everything in, there's so much more to do outside of it too. So like there was never a dull moment living out there. I even lived out there for about a year and a half after I graduated. So I loved it. I still love the city. I love Columbus.
Yeah, very cool. So you did the whole hockey thing for like the whole 4 years. And so like, obviously, it was all go pretty much. And so like typically, because I played college sports too. So with me, after I left, I kind of felt like there was, I was missing something. So did you feel like that? And that's how you kind of got into CrossFit? Yeah.
So it felt like there was a void and I wasn't sure. Like after college, like you said, you are constantly managing your time because you have to get from one place to the next. And if you've ever walked on Ohio State's campus, you realize that like getting from one place to the other could be a 45-minute walk and you have no other choice but to walk.
Yeah.
So you are, running across campus. But being so into that little bubble of what you're doing with sport and classes and managing all of it. And then to have the freedom afterwards of like, wow, I don't have to rush to go to class. Because I still had one semester afterwards to graduate where I wasn't playing. And it was actually my worst semester because I had too much free time and I didn't know how to cope with it and how to manage it. But yeah, I definitely was a little depressed afterwards. There was a little, maybe a year or so where I really did not know what to do with myself. And I was running a lot and then I stopped doing anything. So I went from being this 125-pound college hockey player to, my weight going up and fluctuating and going down and just not knowing, just hitting a roller coaster of a time. And I eventually got into powerlifting from a friend of mine who I met in college, and he was big into the USA Powerlifting League. So I started powerlifting, and then that really kind of gave me some structure again. And then from there, I ended up moving home from Ohio and had a friend bring me to CrossFit for the first time. And from there, it was just, easy enough to fall in love with the sport, especially when you're coming from something that's so competitive. So it really filled a void for me that I really needed. So, yeah.
So with the powerlifting, how long did that last before you got into CrossFit?
Probably a year and a half or so. I didn't do it for too long. I did it for a good amount of time to like build a really strong base. But again, going from a fast-paced sport to just powerlifting and just focusing on 3 main lifts, like it got very dull very quickly for me. because I love the excitement and the adrenaline.
Yeah.
So I started doing some CrossFit while I was powerlifting, and then it just kind of, meshed into just being CrossFit. So, but it has given me a solid background with lifts and things like that. So I definitely, don't regret it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge, from powerlifting to CrossFit, learning how to squat properly, deadlift properly, and like bracing, even bench pressing too, like all those like, movements will actually help out in the long run in CrossFit, because obviously you see those, like, some people that do like the scared cat when they do deadlifts, arch the back, and it's just like, how is your vertebrae not breaking?
Right.
Or even like back squatting when they go down and they lift their butt up first instead of their shoulders. And it's just like, how are you doing this? Like, and that's like I think it's a huge advancement, compared to like a newbie CrossFitter that just started and has no idea of like nothing.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think that in combination with ice hockey, like, it's a sport where you are sprinting for 45 seconds and you're getting off and you're resting. So the explosiveness and having the fast twitch muscle fibers, kind of firing on all cylinders, in addition to powerlifting, has only, benefited me more than, someone who's just powerlifting. So I definitely look forward to any type of strength event that pops up. It's the gymnastics that will forever be a work in progress.
Yep. Same here. I'm 6'6", so that's all. It's
oh gosh.
Yeah.
Handstand push-ups must take forever.
Yeah. I've told this story before, but this gym I used to go to on Saturdays, they had this like 18-year-old kid that was like doing cross country, and like he was good. He was like fast. And so me being in like later in my 30s, I'm like, I'm going to smoke this kid. I got him. And like, we did I always recorded my workouts just to see like how I can improve and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so it was a pull-up workout. And so I did a couple pull-ups, took a breather, and I'm like, hey, where are you at? And he's like, oh, I'm like, he was like double to where I was. And I was like, how is that possible? Are you like counting them? And then I looked at the video, like every one rep I did, it was two of his. And I was like, no, that's not fair. That's not fair. But then,
somebody can't help either.
Yeah. But with the heavy barbell stuff, I got them every time, but still, it's just like, how I'm like, always try to find ways to, move quicker, even though I have like these long
unless limbs. You put your hands all the way out here.
Yeah.
And really kind of shorten that range of motion.
Yeah, but that's like, that hurts so bad.
Yeah. What sport did you play in college?
So I played I played at a small D3 school. I played lacrosse 4 years of the whole time. I played basketball 1 year. That was mainly for getting in season for lacrosse. And then I played football 2 years. And I had to stop my sophomore year of football because I got too many concussions. And so it wasn't worth it. I'm like, fair. I'm playing D3 football. It's like, not like I'm going to go anywhere. So I'm like, this is not worth it. And then I get stuck with lacrosse, and, I've been playing for 23 years right now, roughly.
Oh, wow. So do you still play?
Yeah, I play in an old man's lacrosse league. So
we call those beer leagues.
Yeah, pretty much. It's funny because it's like 35 and older, and there's like some people that have just started playing lacrosse because they just wanted to do something. Yeah. And here's me like trying to coach them and like, yell at them in a good way, not like in a bad way, like, hey, 2 hands the stick, or just like something like that. And like, I got to the point, like one guy comes up to me and says, hey, we really do appreciate you kind of like coaching us a little bit, but like, just remember, like, some of us have only been here for like a year. And I'm like, okay, all right.
Hard to reel it back in.
Yeah, I'll take it easy, but it's fun. I took this year off just to kind of work on a couple things, but I've coached for like 7 years. I'd love to get coaching again, but it's just like time and kids,
Yeah, I'm sure. Family, how many kids do you have?
So I have two. I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. The oldest one's a boy and the youngest one's a girl.
Nice.
So
yeah, I'm sure that is a handful.
Yeah, and my son's actually born on International Star Wars Day.
Oh, so does he love Star Wars?
Oh my God, yeah, loves like. So like I'm a closet nerd pretty much. So I love like collecting comic books. I love like the Marvel thing. I love like Star Wars, like sci-fi stuff. And like I kind of roped him into that, but like there's no pressure. on like him, like he can like wherever he wants.
Like,
But
Dad,
he's
I
like,
want to love what you love.
yeah, of course. He's like, yeah, idolizes me. So like his whole room's like decked out in Star Wars gear. He's got like Marvel
Oh, that's
toys
great.
and all that stuff. So, and now my daughter is like starting to like the Marvel stuff, like watching TV that like, my son's watching. And it's funny, like
great.
we have pull-ups for her. So when she goes to bed, like she doesn't like wet the bed. And so my wife's like, oh, do you want the Barbie ones or Spider? Like, which ones do you want? And she points to like the Spider-Man pull-ups.
My
She's
kind
like,
of girl.
I want Spider-Man. And I'm like, she loves rainbows and unicorns, but it's like, she's like all about Spider-Man right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. See, I can hang with you on the Marvel stuff, the Star Wars stuff. That's past me.
Yeah. Like
Not huge on the knowledge with Star Wars.
Yeah. I kind of consider myself a noob too. Like I like watching the movies. I like watching the TV series. Yeah. It's just like seeing like there's YouTube videos of like Easter eggs or like how they like delve deep. I'm like, I don't remember the names. I don't care. Just show me some action. That's it.
Right.
No, and and then like I see everyone like losing their mind of like, oh, this is their planet this and planet that, and it's like this character this, and I'm like,
can't keep up.
Yeah, I'm like, is that the blue guy or the green guy? Like which one? Yeah. So after you finished powerlifting, you started doing CrossFit. So when did you realize that, hey, I'm getting like really good at the sport and this could probably like lead into something?
Honestly, my second year doing the Open. So my first year doing the Open was 2015, and it was just kind of I didn't put in a score for one weekend, and it was just kind of a shit show. But then my second year was a consistent 5 weeks of the Open workouts, and this was 2016. So I was part of the Mid-Atlantic Regional, and I was 29th. 29th? Yeah. I finished 29th. And that year, whatever happened, like everything went through the process for inviting the top 20 went through. And then a couple weeks later, I get this email and it says, you've qualified. And I was like I was blown away because I had no expectation of this happening, but whatever, fate happened. 9 other girls decided either not to go or got invalidated, and I got my chance to compete. So there were actually two of us, that 29th and 30th, that ended up going and taking the 19th and 20th spot. So that year I went in well in the, back of the pack and came out in the middle of the pack. So I ended 14th at regionals that year. And then the following year was the year that Kelly invited me out to Timberwolf. And I knew going team would only benefit me if I eventually wanted to go individual, which I knew I did. So I said, okay, a year out there, I really had nothing back home kind of holding me back as far as work, or my family's been super supportive of it. So I lived with Kelly and her family for the year in Minnesota. And then we qualified that year for the games at the Central Regional. And that was the last year it was a team of 6. So it was kind of cool to still experience like the original format of an affiliate team, because at the time there were actually 3 of us that moved to Minnesota to be on Timberwolf. And there's one guy, 2 of the guys actually stayed out there, and they, kind of built their life out there now, which is really cool to think about. But the owner of the gym at the time, Tony Cohens, was the team captain and was on the team. And he really just, gave us a great kind of work balance while we were out there, and kind of, made it possible for us to want to build a life out there. I have some best friends that I still talk to and keep in touch with, which is awesome. And anytime we go out there or we go to a competition, there's always some people from Timberwolf. So it's cool to keep the connection alive. And it's all because of the kind of community that Tony built out there, which I think is really neat. But that year we went and we competed in Madison for the first time, and we finished 8th, which was also,
that's really cool.
At the time you're upset because it's 8th, but you look back on it and you're like, that's pretty fucking cool. Like, you were 8th place on a team. And then I moved back home about a couple weeks after that. and drove everything in a U-Haul back and decided,
that
that was a trip. My mom actually, I packed my car in Minnesota and I drove, and we have to pass pretty much through Chicago. So I stopped. My mom flew to Chicago the same day, and I picked her up 6 hours later, and then she drove home with me.
Nice.
So that was something. I don't know how we do half the trips that we do when we, look back on it. There's a lot of hours in that car.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I did a trip from Massachusetts to Columbus and back.
Yeah.
That was like 12 hours.
12 hours?
Yeah.
It's like 7 from here. That's a lot.
Yeah. So it was rough. But anyway, so when you went to team, made it to the games. So when you walked into Madison, were you like completely like awestruck of like, oh wait, this person's here, this person's here. Oh my gosh, we're facing this person. What was your environment for the first time going to the games?
Intimidating. It's in three of our teammates had been there before. Kelly, Andrea at the time, and Tony had all been to the games a couple of times. So, but 3 of us were new on the team, and you have your teammates kind of bounce off of, and you lean on them for the experience that they have, but at the same time, like, you still have to go out and perform and do well. So it was definitely intimidating, but I'm there for the experience as well, and competing definitely, and wanting to win and do as best as we could, and being in a team sport my whole life, like, I always wanted to show up for my teammates. So I always just made that a priority, that it was more for the team and not for me. But I remember the first day we went to check in, and Katrin was actually sitting outside on kind of on the curb or whatever. And I was like, Andrea, let's go get a picture. Like, I had never seen her before. And at the time, she had just won the games 2 years in a row. I was like, let's go get a picture. And we were like, so that's actually one of the first CrossFit games athletes that I've really met, which is funny. So yeah, I mean, it's a different field when you get out there than it is at regionals. It's not just a select few teams that are good. They are all good. Mm-hmm. So it's the same as individual too.
Yeah. So speaking of individual, I know you played team sports pretty much your whole life. Like, what was the desire to go individual?
It kind of came naturally. I enjoy the pressure of competing, and I've always loved, like, in college, in ice hockey, when a player gets a penalty and you're on a penalty kill. I always loved being out there and having the pressure of, okay, it's 5-on-4, you're the 4, don't get scored on. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I love the pressure of high situation, or high pressure situations. And I've just kind of always thrived in those. So knowing that I was progressing so well in the sport from 2016 through 2017, I always knew from 2016 that I wanted to go individually and give it a shot. And 2018 happened to just be that year that it happened. And, the stars aligned, and I worked for it and I earned it. But, I wasn't expecting it. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was really an awesome experience.
Very cool. So when you started going individual, like, were you reaching out to different different camps or whatnot? Like, how did Misfit pretty much get involved, reach out to you, to connect with you?
So the owner of our gym, I go to a gym called CrossFit Vertex, and our owner, her name is Kalina, and she's a co-owner with another woman at the gym, Tara, and she was doing my programming from 2016. So when I qualified in 2016 and I had no idea what I was doing, she's like, okay, I've done this for a master's athlete. Why don't I program for you on the side? So she was giving me my own stuff outside of her doing all the class programming that she does. And then I did that also through Timberwolf. So while I was there, I was still following my own stuff and then doing some team workouts whenever we got together. And then the gym started growing and things started, getting bigger and bigger. So she took a step back from programming for me. And I was like, okay, what should I do from here? Because I knew I wanted to compete. I knew I wanted to go to regionals again. So my brother had mentioned, why don't you try Misfit? Like years back when I first started, my brother was doing Misfit. And he probably doesn't even remember that we had that conversation. But I just started following the blog because it was a free blog and people were posting their scores. And I always shied away from actually writing my scores down, but I was still following the blog and still jumping in class workouts from time to time. But then I knew once I qualified through the Open for regionals, I told my parents that I wanted to get set up with a remote coach. And from there, I had a phone call with Gabe Garcia. I don't know if you've met Gabe at all.
No, I haven't yet, but I always like hear him on podcasts. He sounds awesome.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He is he's a dad of two, and you can tell he's a dad of two young boys. But we had a phone call, and I'm sure as a coach on the other end of it, you hear so many athletes say they want to go to the games and they want to qualify. And I had said that, and I'm not sure either of us were ready for what was to come from it. Mm-hmm. So that was right after the Open, had the phone call, and then we went all through regionals prep. And at the time I was dealing with some injuries and things like that we had to really work around. And that was kind of part of the doubt of qualifying. But we were, I think, the last or the second to last weekend. So there was some time to kind of practice the workouts for regionals. And, lo and behold, Linda pops up, and I couldn't ask for a better powerlifting event than bench press, deadlift, and squat cleans. And just, putting in the time to practice the workouts and making sure that I went to regionals as prepared as I could was huge. So most of my workouts there kind of came down to sprinting to the finish line. And had I not sprint to the finish line, there are workout, like I probably wouldn't have gotten the points that I needed. So it's all about just start to finish, finishing each event is what it came down to.
Yeah.
But at the time too, like at regionals, Gabe wasn't there. So it was mostly like talking through phone calls, but I still have a great relationship with our owner here, Kalina. So she came to regionals as my coach with me. And pretty much, we were just laughing and joking the entire time in the back and in the warm-up area. And that just kept me so level-headed for when I went out to compete. It was just what I needed. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know any of the Misfits at the time. I didn't know Drew. I didn't know China. China was a Misfit at the time, or Kenzie. Kenzie and I were competing against each other. Ted, I didn't know any of them. And then, you qualify and they realize that you're following Misfit this whole time. And they're like, holy shit, who's this kid? So just kind of cool to have them all there as well. Aside from Gabe, I wish he could have been there for that. But it's cool for them to witness that too and see that, the proof is in the pudding of their programming if you're willing to put in the work.
Yeah. So I want to go back to the Linda workout. So I remember hearing from some people with the Linda workout that they had a judge pretty much looking at their butt the whole time to see if their butt would go up from the bench. Now, while you're doing the workout, I know you're probably concentrating on the bench press, but like, did you feel kind of awkward of like someone like staring at you down there at all? Or
no, I didn't. Honestly, like, you get so enveloped in what you're doing that like I was more so focusing on like, okay, I'm on the sevens. Can I finally go unbroken on my bench press, or do I have to break the setup again? Because I don't want to have to re-rack it.
Yeah.
No, I actually it's funny too, because I always try to, you shake hands with the judges and, you want to be as respectful as you can as an athlete, because they're there on their own time, really.
Oh yeah, they're doing it for free.
Yeah, but there are a couple of judges that like I'll still see them around in the sport, or I'm friends with them on Instagram, and it's because you were a good person when you were competing and you kind of had a little bit of a connection with them.
Yep.
And there's a couple of judges, and the judge during Linda, his name is Greg Hodges, and I'll never forget him because he was my judge actually on the bench press, and just super level kind of guy, kept it even keel and was just fair.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I didn't have any issues with that. I honestly wasn't even thinking about it.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So in 2018, you went to the games, like you said, as an individual. So obviously being a team, you actually have like people on your side, and like you're actually like working hand in hand just to get better. But being an individual is like complete beast kind of like going teams. So like, what did you learn anything from teams going into individual, or is it pretty much just like, okay, done with that, and this is something completely new?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of shift in your attention with, regards to pacing in a workout and strategizing things, because when you're on a team, like it's that work, rest, where when it's individual, it's work, and you don't find those times to rest really. But I think being on a team has really taught me to push past my own limits. Because when you're doing, 40 burpees over a worm and you got to be synchro on them, like you don't want to be the last one that's dragging, being the pace setter for everybody. So you are constantly learning to push your pace more than you think you can. And that has definitely benefited me overall. And being around good athletes, just, you're going to get better no matter what the programming is. So, but yeah, being in an individual sport now is, like you said, it's a whole different beast. And the stress is different because it's solely on you and it's not on a team, and you're not doing it because you're helping the team, you're doing it for yourself. And having to constantly remind yourself of that, especially as someone who, I don't particularly say that I'm a selfish person. So, but having to remind yourself that like, it is you that you have to focus on. It's on you. And that's it. You still have a team around you that's helping you and supporting you. But at the end of the day, like you're putting in the work. So,
yeah. And you have to like recover and like do all this stuff, and like, having your parents there and like your coaches are like, they can only do so much because obviously they have other athletes they have to worry about too as well. So it's kind of like you have to rely on pretty much rely on your parents or whoever else is like at the games with you to kind of help out and like just be like, hey, just throw me something over the fence. So like, you can't go in the coaches, like, the athletes area, just throw me something. So
right. Yeah. And I work with the nutrition coach right now with Tactic Nutrition. And so she has given me a ton of guidance. I was at Wadapalooza this year, and just, knowing how much to actually eat, what to eat, when to eat. I actually learned a lot, and I had worked with nutrition coaches in the past and just wasn't given the information that I was given this time around. And I noticed a significant difference in my performance by solely focusing on, her suggestions. So that has been a huge help this year as well. So,
So speaking of Wadapalooza, I that was one of my bucket lists to go down there this year. Cause like, I've always wanted to go. It was like the 10th year. And obviously, I mean, I watched like the Misfit, vlogs and everything. You were on it with like, so what was one of your favorite events?
Oof. So let's see. Honestly, this Wadapalooza was like the first event in about a year that I was on the competition floor with anyone.
Yeah.
So I went to the Fittest Experience down in Texas last January. That was right kind of when COVID restrictions were like easing up. It was Texas. Nobody really cared down there. So that was the first one. And there were a few top athletes there. There was Danielle Brandon, Andrea Nisler was there. A local girl, Samantha was there, Samantha Pugh, and like Christine Colenbrander. Those were in the top 5. so the level of competition was pretty good there, but then you get to Wadapalooza and it's essentially like another CrossFit Games where, it's not the top 5 that are good. It's the top 40 and they're all there. So it was a humbling experience. The very first event was probably one of the hardest events I'd ever done. It was the 3 minutes on, 1 minute off with the heavy jump rope, the weighted GHDs and the flip sled. And maybe it was because it was my first event in a year being on the floor and it was the heat. It was whatever it was, the combination was horrendous. And I took so long to recover after that workout. So I definitely won't forget it. And I definitely won't forget that I need to work on heavy handle weighted jump rope, not just like a heavy rope jump rope. But I think my favorite event was probably the Bayside Chipper because I did so well. That's part of it. I did so well in that one. That was the one with the box jump overs, the burpee box jump overs, the rope climbs and the deadlifts. But I remember testing it out. It was just fun. Like it was just a fun workout to run through. And I also really liked it was the handstand push-up overhead squat. And then 5 rounds. And then, so it was the Celebrate 10 workout and then 5 rounds of the overhead squat and the ring muscle up. I didn't finish that workout and I didn't pace it well, but I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I thought it was super challenging. And those 2 events were actually like, I was head to head with one other girl, like the entire time. And it just came down to like 1 or 2 reps. That was the difference maker. She ended up beating me on both, but those are kind of, those learning experiences that, just kind of fuel the fire a little bit more.
Yeah. So while you were out, like pretty much you had a whole year of just like not doing any competitions. Did you ever go up to like Portland to kind of train with the other athletes there, or like kind of to try to get some competition experience at all? Like not competition, but at least like kind of train.
Yeah. So last year I actually went up. Which weekend was it? It was the weekend before. So the 2 Misfits, Caroline and Austin, were prepping for Granite Games. And it was the weekend before that I went up there and just kind of, gave Caroline a little bit of support and some push and some motivation and, just to get a nice little weekend in with them. I think that was the only time I went up last year. It's hard to remember, like with, like 2020 and COVID, like what you did. So, but it was a great weekend then. And that was the year, last year Caroline qualified. So, the stars aligned there and it's just, they're good people to be around. They're fun to work out with. I'll be up there in the Misfit camp in a couple weeks with them. So, that was really the only time. And then, you sprinkle in, like a day here or there. A friend of mine, Bailey, she owns Stroud CrossFit, which is about a 45-minute drive. So I've been down there a few times. But not really. I typically train by myself a lot. My boyfriend, Ben, he trains with me a lot now too, when he has the time. He works a full-time job, like in an office space. So our weekends, we spend a lot of time in the gym and it's great because he loves it too. And it's one thing that we have in common that we always value. So it's never a hassle for us or gets in the way of anything, which is nice.
Yeah, very cool. So how did you guys meet? Let me guess. You guys met at a CrossFit gym?
Of course we did.
Yeah.
Actually, small world. So COVID hit and Ben was coaching at Scott Panchik's gym. He was actually the manager at CrossFit Mentality. And when COVID hit, the risk of being in a gym and not knowing what's going to happen and wanting to solidify like a more stable job kind of happened for him. And he ended up moving from Cleveland to Pennsylvania to Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and he got a job with P&G. So with Procter and Gamble, he had an engineering position there. So that brought him to the area. And then he, just kind of wandered into CrossFit Vertex and we met at our community kickball game. And that was really the only time I ever saw him because his job had him, working so many hours. But Yeah, we met at the gym. Of course.
I was thinking you guys met like in like not at like a kickball thing, but like at the gym, and he was like, on the squat rack, like trying to do curls or something like that. And then he saw you and like, said I add a little bit more on there and be like, yeah, check me out.
I'll take a video next time he does that. I promise. I'll send it to you.
Very cool. So obviously, like, you're really busy and all that stuff. So, and how do you able to like spend time with like family, your boyfriend? I know you said just you guys do the weekends, but like, how do you, create time? Because obviously being a full-time CrossFit athlete is kind of like, is really, tough on, time pretty much.
Yeah. So my coaching schedule, so I also coach, at our gym full time, and I do some remote coaching through Misfit. So, I try to structure the day so that, when you have a remote job, and I'm sure you might know this or not, but like, it's really easy to just kind of put things off and, and not, have a set schedule time. Yeah. So when I coach, Mondays are kind of a big day for me coaching in the gym, Mondays and Tuesdays and Thursdays. So Wednesdays I have off, which is kind of a nice, kind of that midweek, day to kind of chill out on being on your feet so much. So I do a lot of my computer work on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and Wednesdays are also a training day. So I try to get 2 sessions in because I have much more time. Mm-hmm. And usually on a Wednesday or Thursday, my Thursdays are pretty flexible until the evening as well. And Thursdays typically a lighter day in the gym. So I my family lives about 20 minutes away, and I see them pretty often. I always try to visit at least once a week, or have my mom and dad come up here for dinner or something like that. But we just find time. I mean, it's not that we find time, I make time. Yeah. So, and I value my family. I value spending time with people that are close to me. So, a lot of like my friends in the gym, like on a Saturday, we'll do Saturday partner workout, we'll do training afterwards, but like we usually always get together for dinner, or like an early, a dinner, if you want to call it that, a lunch dinner. Yeah. Which is usually pretty routine for us. But Ben and I also, my boyfriend, we cook dinner together every night. So we always have that time together. So either, if we're putting a show on, or if we're just talking and catching up, that's something that we both have always valued from the start when I first moved in with him. So that's something that, we try to do as much as we can. And some nights he's cooking, some nights I'm cooking. So we have a pretty good balance with that. And if things start to get in the way, we address it. So if, he's working more hours and he's coming home late, or if I'm, on my computer too much while we're trying to have time together, we're just open about it, and we talk about it. So if it's important to you, you make time, right? So those are the things that we value.
Very cool. Very cool. So obviously, you did Wodapalooza, the Open's like right around the corner. So what are your goals for the Open, and then like the next round, and then kind of like, the regionals?
Yeah. So last year, kind of looking back at it, I feel like I peaked pretty early in quarterfinals. I had a really good run through the Open and quarterfinals. I finished quarterfinals in 12th in North America, which is pretty high. And my semifinal, so we got to choose, CrossFit sends out the email about, if you had to pick your order of preference. Mm-hmm. So I actually put the Atlas Games as my first choice, which was the online one. Yeah. Just with the strategy of like, everyone wants to go be in person because COVID, hit so many that like, I don't know, maybe this is my chance to show that I'm actually good at online events and I can perform here. Just because also the Open and quarterfinals went so well as online events, which I'm notoriously not good at online events, better in person. Yeah. So I did that. But I really think that I just peaked too early, and I didn't perform as well as I think I could in semis. And then I made last chance qualifier, and again, a little specialized with the workouts, but I just, I couldn't perform as well as others could. And I did my best and I accepted it. And I told myself that I won't sign up for an online person event again if I don't have to.
Yeah.
So this year, going into the Open, not stressing about it, just going in, having fun, and just performing as well as I can, and leaving it at that, and not, overthinking it. And same with quarterfinals. I don't want to say, because anything could happen, I don't want to say I'm guaranteed a spot, but I know if I perform the way I've been performing, that I will be able to qualify for a semifinal. And this year, I really want to peak at the right time and make sure that I'm doing it right.
Yeah.
So not really putting too much stress on it, but you just kind of know when it's time. And I think this might be my last year trying to qualify. So it's my last year trying to go all in, and I'm just going to leave it at that and see what happens.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. We're getting close to the end. I have one other question, but I kind of want to do a couple other funny questions. So I did watch a podcast video on you on Misfit Athletics. And so I heard you're a big fan of pit bull puppies.
I am. I love my puppy.
So why, out of any of those dogs, why that? Why that?
So my brother brought home this big little meatball, big little. I don't know if you can see him.
Yep, I can see.
That's Hammer. So my brother brought him home in 2012, which I was still in college, but anytime I'd come home, he was my best friend. He was my snuggle bug. He was my boy. So, and then even then I didn't really know how much of a stereotype of pit bull was, the stigma of them and how bad they are. And we have this lovable big boy, and it just, I don't know, you just kind of stay attracted to that. And you hate how ugly people make them seem, and they're not. And they are the friendliest, lovable. They can be trained to be such good dogs. Our gym owner has Fraser, which he's like my second dog, and he's a pit mix. But they're just good boys, and they're good dogs, and they're just so lovable, and they're expressive. And I don't know, I'll always be attached to a pit bull.
Yeah. Very cool. So, what are your, obviously, making it past the Open and, quarterfinals and semifinals in the games this year, but do you have any other goals this year you kind of want to achieve?
In CrossFit or outside of CrossFit?
You do both.
Within CrossFit, I really just want to keep seeing progress. I call myself old. I know I'm not old, but I'm older in the sport now. You see really a lot of younger.
So
you don't look that old. But I am older in the sport, right? So you have a lot of 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds coming up. And for me, I want to continue to see progress. Mm-hmm. And this last Misfit Athletics cycle with the back squats, I really didn't think I'd ever PR my back squat again. And yet here I am putting 15, almost 20 pounds on top of an already heavy back squat.
Yeah.
So to do that and, get older, and you still, and that's the thing that people love about CrossFit, and what makes us love it so much and be so passionate about it, is I'm so much fitter from 2016 to now. And I've only aged, right? I've only gotten older, but I've gotten smarter about what I'm doing. I've learned, nutrition, lifestyle, all these changes that I've made, and it slowly just has come over time. And I just want to keep seeing those kinds of, those little wins keep happening. I wouldn't really say I have any other huge goal outside of wanting to make the games this year. So, but again, I'm not, I'll put the pressure on it, but it's not the end of the world for me either. I love my life outside of the CrossFit games. So, that's something that I also, find value in, is not beating myself up too much about it, because I've definitely done that plenty. But outside of CrossFit, just, building my relationship with Ben, and, seeing where that goes, because I have a feeling that's not, it's going to stay around for a long time. So yeah, I wouldn't say anything like too, crazy, but like, a wedding ring might,
I was going to say that. I was going to say that.
I don't know, but it might. I'm just saying there is definitely, a chance that could happen.
Yeah. So. Well, I do want to let you know. So this year, actually like this last year and this year, this is the most I've ever lifted on being on a program. And I'm 42. Right? So
that's awesome.
Yeah. And being on Misfit, it's insane. Like doing all the lifts that I've been doing. And it's just like, how is this possible? And then like, obviously, my endurance is okay. It needs a little bit of improvement, but then like I had COVID like 2 weeks ago, so it didn't really help out. So
I get you.
It's getting better, but like, just trying to find ways to, knock out those workouts and, kill it. So it's
take your medicine.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's just like, gosh, like the amount of like weight that's gone up throughout the years. It's just like, if you told me like I was able to do like a split jerk of like 320, it's like at 42, I'm like, you're out of your mind. Right. So it's insane. So
I know, I love it.
Yeah.
And I even love, just our members in the gym. Like we have this one woman who first came in, and she had a couple surgeries that kind of limit her mobility. And her first burpee was done on a 30-inch box. Like she can do the burpee to the box, and now she's doing burpees to the ground. And nice. Again, she's only getting older, right? But that is what I love so much about it, is like, it's for everybody. And, despite all the negativity about it, like you do it for a long time and you get consistent, you're going to see a lot of good changes. But also, speaking of Misfit, like having done it for a few years and going through the phases and the cycles and all the different, kind of, ins and outs of the competition season, like I feel like I've, over time with experience, have gotten finally, finding a good balance of, when to really kind of up the intensity and the volume and when to bring it down. And I'm seeing that a lot this week. And, this week is our retest week. So last week was a primer week, kind of a deload, right? The volume was down, the percentages were down. And typically in my cycles, I never have a good retest week. And this week I have been feeling great. And I think a lot of it, again, has to do with finding the right balance of not doing too much, but doing enough that it's going to push me to adapt. So that is kind of the theme that I want happening into the season, is finding those times that it's the time to pick it up and it's the time to slow it down. Yeah. And just finding a balance.
I agree. This retest week, my quads have been so sore.
Yep.
It's like
I woke up today feeling hit by a bus.
Oh my gosh. Like I did the workout, the wall ball double under workout on Saturday. So for the listeners out there, it was the rep scheme for wall balls were 25, 20, 15, 10, then goes back up to 25. You do 30 double unders every set. So the next morning, like I felt it during the workout, my quads were like just blown up, and I'm like, just go with it. Just you're fine. And then I did the back squat PR and did more wall balls with the rower and the double and the sled. And the next morning, I was at the stairs. I looked down and I'm like, how am I going to get down from here? So I like, it was like the old person, like shuffle down, like you go sideways, and, like, walk down that way. It makes you feel better. And then kind of like try to like do a pigeon stretch or something like that, just to kind of help the soreness. And it was like, nope, not
yep. Nothing really helps. Like I'm ready for a rest day tomorrow. I'm ready to kind of take it easy tomorrow. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, my problem is I actually missed Monday because my daughter was up all night the night before. And so I had to go through Tuesday through Saturday, like straight through.
Yikes.
So
Good luck.
yeah,
Good luck with that.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So I did forget to mention, I heard in the news that the like during the right before the semifinals, they were actually doing 2 workouts that every semifinal is actually doing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I like it. I think that's fair. Because you can go like Granite Games last year. All the events are different except for the ones that were online, but you can go to Granite Games and get something completely different than what they got at the MAC, right? The Mid-Atlantic CrossFit Challenge. And then you also add in, they're dealing with like a heat wave last year in Minnesota, which I thought is wild to even think about. So I like the consistency. I think that's neat. How do I feel about Dave Castro not doing it? I don't know.
Yeah, that's another story. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny because in college, I went through a ton of coaching changes that, it kind of deters you a little bit from, it's hard. It's hard to manage. And especially as a kid in college, you don't really, know. But there was a lot that happened in like 2 or 3 years in college that, you learn new systems. You have to learn to get along with a new coach. You got to, see what their coaching style is like. Are you going to fit in with it? But it's kind of been the same thing with CrossFit. And it's like every year there's something different. And while I love it and I love the sport, like you get sick of how many things have to constantly change. So I'm hoping, with Dave leaving, maybe, it's kind of the final part of that. And, there'll be some consistency to it, but it's just kind of, you roll with it and happy about it, mad about it. You can't do anything about it. So you just kind of go with it.
Roll with the punches.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. So do you have a favorite book that you like to read or like give it out as a gift to somebody?
If I had one, it would be Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, great book. I read that. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't read it. I listened to it on Audible. But Ben and I have the book and I want to go through and read it because he has a ton of like little blurbs in there, like notes from his past, and just his mindset is incredible. He's just, and his voice is great to listen to because he actually reads the book himself for the Audible.
I heard, yeah.
I would highly recommend that. I think that's a great book.
Very cool. Yeah, I read that book and then I read Matt Fraser's book and now I'm on Will Smith's autobiography.
Okay.
And so Will Smith,
I heard the Matt Fraser book is good.
Yeah, if you ever read it, like he has some like nuggets in there for like competitions. You're like, oh, snap! Like why didn't I think of that? Or like, you know, just stuff like that. It's I bet you like every CrossFit athlete's already read it already. Just kind of figure out like what the deal is. Like,
we have to get it. Ben's brother has it, but we'll have to pick one up.
Yeah, just steal it from his brother.
Yeah, well, they live in Buffalo.
Oh, okay, never mind.
I could still do that though. It could still happen. What's the Will Smith one?
So it's an autobiography about his life pretty much. And so it talks about like the first chapter, it's all about like how his mom got beaten up, like punched in the face and knocked out by his dad. And like, he watched the whole thing and he like the whole thing of like the story is like, he felt like he should have, watched out for his mom, like taking care of her. And then he just saw that, and now he has like a bunch of fear going on. And I've only gotten to like past that, so I finished that chapter. And he's talking about like, what is he talking about now? But like, yeah, it's like he talks about like, oh yeah, you thought like it was gonna be all like hunky dory, like Will Smith, like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air kind of theme, like know, and like that's as far as I got. Yeah, it's a little dark at the beginning, but I've heard very good things about it.
Awesome. I'll have to look into it. Is it on Audible?
Yeah, I think so. It's a huge book though. It's like 400 pages or something like that. It's thick.
Yeah, so. Those are the kind of books that you get for a road trip, and I got one of those coming up. So
yeah,
you're listening to it.
Yeah, it's long, but it's supposedly I've heard it's pretty good. So
okay, cool,
very cool. Awesome. So what is in your gym bag? Is there anything like unique in your gym bag that like no one else has?
I would say it's the funniest thing. I have a giant junk brand carabiner. So it's like probably like this big of a carabiner, and it has all of my grips on there. And I have, I think, 6 or 7 different pairs of types of grips. Like they're not even the same one. So I have like fingerless, I have 3-hole, they're all Victory grips. But I have like their tactical ones, they're fingerless tactical, they're regular X2s, they're 3 holes. And then I have one generic brand that I bought from like Dick's Sporting Goods that I use for ring muscle ups. But like I can use them for all different things.
Okay.
That's probably the weirdest thing or the funniest. I don't really have anything. I keep some Body Glide in there. I have my Airwave mouth guard. I have tape. Nothing weirder. I have another small carabiner of just hair ties because you never know when you're going to need one.
Yeah, I know. I feel your pain. So
I'm sure.
Yeah. All right, cool. So what would you tell somebody that's trying to get to like the CrossFit Games, like what to expect?
It's going to knock you down a lot. And it's going to be how you respond to that as to whether you are going to be a great athlete or you're going to just be a good athlete. So, and I've worked with a few athletes like this, but you just have to be willing to put in the time and make it something that you believe in so much that like you make everyone around you believe it. And, but yeah, it's going to knock you down. You're going to go through a ton of peaks and valleys. So just to learn to adapt is probably the biggest thing.
Okay. All right.
And work your ass off.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a given. So, so this one, I'm going to go a little bit deep. So if, let's just say, you know, your life was like, you're like the last day on earth and pretty much like, how do you want people to know you as?
A good person. In CrossFit and competition, I want to be known as, you know, a respected athlete. I'd rather be more well known because I was someone who had good sportsmanship than, you know, won an event here or there, right? Being the greatest of all time would be a little bit different, but I would rather be known as a good person. And yeah, I think that's really it. I just want to be known as a good person.
Okay, very cool. All right. So where can people reach out to you if they have any questions about like CrossFit or coaching or like pretty much anything? Yeah.
And you can reach out to me about anything. I love when people do. My Instagram handle is at Paige_Semenza. You can message me there, or I don't want to give out my phone number. I feel like that's a little too much. No. But you can also email me. My email is semenza.25@gmail.com. So either or. Instagram is probably going to be the easiest way. But
yeah. Funny story about phone numbers. I interviewed somebody and I messaged him, and his phone number was actually on his Instagram page.
Oh.
Because you could put it on, there.
Yeah.
So, okay. And so I was like, hey, you may want to take your phone number off your Instagram page. And he's like, oh, it's on there. And I'm like, yeah. Do you want me to text you? Because I can just text you right now on my phone. And he's like, I'll take it off. And he took it off. And he's like, gosh, I can't imagine like how long that was on there.
Right. But, and also like all the random like marketing things that you're going to get being texted to your phone instead of just like in a blocked, you know, DM. Oh, that was a good call. At least you saw it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a medical recruiter, like full time. So I'd like text people like all the time. So I'm one of those people. But yeah, like I love the people that like text me and say, stop. I'm like, no, this is not an automated machine. It's a real person texting you, but you know, good try. Okay. But
I like reading those, like, you know, memes on, like on Instagram or whatever. And it's like, it looks like an automated message and like people respond back. Like, just something completely bizarre. Instead of like saying confirm, they're like, I want McDonald's or something like that. And there's just random, they're just funny. And then it's like, this is not an automated message. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Very cool. Well, listen, I really enjoyed our conversation, and like I really do thank you for the time you've taken, because I know like we've been trying to schedule this thing for a while.
Yeah.
And COVID, like Wadapalooza, and like then your whole family wasn't feeling well, and I do appreciate getting to learn you a little, get to know you a little bit more, and I would love to have you back on later on in the year, and then kind of like shoot the breeze and see how everything's going.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for being so flexible with your schedule too. A lot went on a couple weeks ago, so I just really appreciate that you were flexible and not, I'm just gonna say it, not a dick about it.
I wouldn't. I understand. Life happens. I have kids, so it's all, I understand. But
well, thank you. No, anytime that you want to, get together again on here, you reach out, and I'm more than happy to.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. See, I'm not trying to get you gotcha questions or anything like that, except for like the ring thing and maybe like the curls with your boyfriend. That's rubber hack.
I told you, I'll send you a video next time he does that. How he flirts.
Yeah. I'm like, my wife just wants nothing to do with that. She's just like, just get away. So,
so am I.
Yeah, I like try to get corny and stuff like that, like do dad jokes because I'm a dad now, and it's funny. Like once you have a kid, or like like, or your wife's pregnant, like instant dad jokes, like you'll start like laughing at them, and you're like, why am I laughing at this? This is so corny. So corny.
I think next time we're on here, I'm gonna have Ben hop on with us, because I feel like he is definitely ready for dad jokes. Like he's there. And that's kind of, part of, this being my last year competing could be, us wanting to start a family. Like we don't know yet, so the dad jokes will come.
Yeah. I mean, there's always masters and stuff like that if you ever want to get involved with that. So
that's true. That's not something I wouldn't say no to, but as of right now, I don't know yet.
Yeah. I've had a lot of athletes say like, I don't want to do masters. And I'm like, why not?
I know.
They're
getting a lot of attention now. Like it's getting bigger for them, which is cool. I don't know. I would do it.
I would do it in a heartbeat. Shoot. Like I'm so competitive. It's like, it's insane. Like,
is it something that's like there for you potentially?
No, there's no, like, there was one year I was like 30, I think it was like 36, 37. I placed like 1,000 out of like the world in my age bracket. And I was like, okay, I'll take that. And then I went, something would happen. And like, I just like dropped and stuff. And, last year wasn't that great either. So, but I mean, if they have thrusters, jump ropes, wall balls, stuff like that, that's my jam since I'm like 6'6". But like, I don't know, we'll see. I mean, my main thing is like, since like I'm podcasting now, like I want to like meet new people. I want to talk to people that I feel are interesting, like yourself, and and maybe I could just like go to a competition and kind of like do something there, or like actually do a competition and kind of like have like people like say like, hey, nice job, or interview you guys like while I'm doing the competition.
Yeah, well, I mean, you do have a little bit of you're getting some kind of door opening, right, with Clydesdale, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Is that Sean Woodland? Am I thinking of the right one, or am I?
No, different. It's Scott Schweitzer. Okay. So he has like 4 people that on the podcast too.
Nice.
So he has my podcast, Taylor Strout's podcast.
Okay.
She's another CrossFit athlete too. And then there's like some bicycling company, and there's like fantasy fitnessing group that like, so it's almost like fantasy football, but for CrossFit. So like they have like money, like cool. So like I'll like, if let's just say like you're at the games and stuff like that, and I think you're going to do well. You have a certain dollar amount, And so I can like, you have like $30 to get all these athletes and like to kind of get the best scores out of all of them.
That's kind of neat.
Yeah. So it's,
look into that.
Yeah, they just started it. I think last
Fantasy
year.
Fitness.
Yeah. I think it's Fantasy Fit. I'll let you know the official, but they're on the media team too. So if we have any questions with like, athlete scores or their like average place and like, let's say the 2018 like CrossFit Games or something like that, like they have a whole database.
Okay.
Of like the scores, like for
cool.
every single CrossFit athlete that's been to the games.
Wow, that is neat. Yeah, I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So
yeah, kind of nerdy. I like it.
Yeah, and then Dex Hopkins is on is part of the media team doing pictures and stuff.
He's a good guy. He was with Misfit for a while too.
Yeah, I had him on my podcast. I think it was like last year, and so we were talking about like actually 2 years ago I think, because we were talking about like his first kid, and like like being a dad and like what he saw, and then then I interviewed his wife too on the podcast too. So
nice.
Yeah, so
I'll have to go through. I saw like I haven't like listened to any of them, but I'm gonna have to go back and go through the archives and find Kelly and listen to some of those because I'm sure they are interesting.
Yeah. So I've introduced Kelly, Caroline Connors. I've interviewed Austin. Who else? Dex, Kenzie, Enzi. I've interviewed.
Yeah, I saw Jordan Cook was on your Instagram.
Yeah,
he's the former Misfit. I don't really know what he's doing right now.
Oh, he's actually a Houston firefighter now.
Yeah, I did see he went to the fire academy. Him and Travis Williams. Travis went. But in terms of competing, I'm not sure if he's trying. Looks like he might be trying to go team again.
Yeah, I think he is because I think when I talked to him, he's like, I'm kind of done with CrossFit on the interview because it's like I need to focus on a career, and so now he probably has time to do something. So he wants to do something, like, do team.
Yeah, I mean, to be a firefighter, like your schedule, it works in your favor to be an athlete. So that is kind of neat.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, I gotta finish cleaning up the house because I'm actually right before I got here. I was actually painting the ceiling in the bathroom in our master bedroom. So my wife's like, you gotta hurry up. So
yeah, all good. Thank you so much. I appreciate this.
So this is gonna post, I believe, probably in like 3 weeks because I got like 2 other people I have that need to go. But I'll let you know. Like I'll text you and send the links over and stuff like that, and kind of go from there. And if and just have you back on maybe during the summertime or something like that, or maybe I can get to a camp, Misfit camp, and
Are you going to Misfit camp?
I would love to. Like I have like my parents still live in Massachusetts, so it's like only like maybe like I believe like an hour and a half ride to get to.
I was gonna say it's not that far, is it?
No. So it's like I could just take my mom and dad's car, and just go up there for like a day and then come back down. But I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, you never know until the weekend comes. You might.
Yeah. We'll see.
It's worth it. You don't have to be a super competitive athlete, but it's just a fun. We did 2 camps now, and even still, like I learned things that I haven't learned before, so it's a fun weekend.
Yeah. I mean, that's the main thing what I want to do. Cause like, obviously like I suck at chest to bar pull-ups. Cause like literally like my arms are like so damn long. It's just like, how the hell can I get better at this? And like, maybe they can like give me like a tips and something like that. And then like I train in a Globo gym.
Okay.
So if you see my videos, like I'm at the Globo gym with the bumper plates.
Yep.
And like, there's no rings. There's like, I could do bar muscle ups, but the problem is like, they have like these bar hangers on the rack. And like, I'm so long that I actually like hit the hangers. And so I'm like, I'll like do like one muscle up at a time. And I'm like, that's whatever.
Right. I mean, safety first at that point too, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm like, I gotta go to work today. So,
well, who knows? Maybe we'll cross paths in person.
Yes. I love that. So, all right, cool. But I'm gonna head out. So I'll let you know when everything comes out, and we'll go from there. And we'll get the boyfriend out on the podcast too.
We will
shoot some dad jokes and kind of go from there.
You got it. I'll make sure he has a list ready.
All right. Awesome. All right. I'll talk to you
All
later.
right. Thanks, Tom.
Bye.
Bye.